Hello, it's me, Jonica. I'm here for part 2. I have tried to start this video maybe 3,000 times. There have been so many things that are getting in the way today, but you know what? That's not going to stop me. We're going to do this. And I swear this is the last time. Then I'm going to film this video. I'm not starting this over again, or I'm going to lose my mind. Seriously. So, if you missed part 1, I was so rudely interrupted by my camera dying. So that will be in the description below. If you're not interested in watching that, welcome to the middle of the conversation. We are talking about tips for new witches. My dogs are playing in the background still. I took off their collars so they're not jingle jangling, and it's like, they're still driving me crazy. So, we're talking about tips for new witches. When I left off on the first part of the video, I asked a question of, why do you feel you need validation for your craft? Why are you watching this video about how to be a witch instead of just being a witch? You know what I mean? The answer is you need therapy. Whatever you said, go to therapy. You know what I mean? Like, magic can be so draining. Spirituality can be so draining because what we're doing is we are trying to approach a higher self, a better understanding of this universe, whatever, and like, oh, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And like, I think of it as like a desert. I live in a desert, and when there's construction on a piece of land that hasn't been touched in a while, a lot of spores will release into the air, and they tend to make everybody, animals included, all sick. It doesn't mean that the spores showed up as soon as the construction people showed up. They were there in the desert. It's just that they were untouched. And as soon as shit starts to get shaken up a little bit, then they release and cause problems. And that's really similar to how people are. We have a lot of traumas and flaws and bullshit just kind of sitting under the surface. And something like witchcraft can really shake up the self and release the spores, the traumas into the air. And so going to a psychiatrist or a therapist, I see both, can really, really help guide you, because reality is you shouldn't have to deal with your traumas by yourself. For instance, shush, shush, shush. My dog needs lemons. Okay, so here's my new dog, by the way. So, when I went to my therapist and psychiatrist, honestly, it was after I started witchcraft, and I realized that it started to pull up a lot of traumas in my life, and they suggested I start to write out all my feelings. This is just what Oprah says, write out your feelings and like burn it or whatever. I wanted to turn it into some more of like a magic practice, so what I did is I have this book here. It's covered in black wax, so it's like a nice textile thing. And I have like sigils that keep people out of here. What I do is I write things that make me mad, and then I paint over it with black paint. So I've turned my traumas, and what the reaction to my traumas are is rage, and I put it into something that becomes an empowerment, a magical experience for me, and an artistic experience for me too. And that's something that I wouldn't have thought of unless I had a therapist to tell me that. So that's what I would suggest for you. And another just like side note for that, both my therapist and my psychiatrist know that I practice magic and witchcraft. And they are accepting. They had no idea what I was talking about, but after I explained, they're like, okay, whatever, and just went with it. You know what I mean? It's their job to do that, and so if you find yourself in therapy and you are honest like you're supposed to be, and you talk about your journey with Wicca or paganism or witchcraft or what have you, and they're like, ew, what the fuck? Find a new therapist, and also report them. So that one's pretty simple. moving on from that one, there's the question of where to begin, because there are a lot of facets of witchcraft that you can start on, like a lot. And I didn't really know what to do when I first started, and so what I did is I went on to like Tumblr or Google, or I don't even know where I found this, but it was a list of a bunch of different types of witches, and you don't have to pick by any means. I'm just saying I'm a witch. I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm totally like this whatever and that's it. You don't have to pick. And if you do, you can change it, and you can be a million different things at once. It doesn't matter. But finding different types of witches and learning more about them, like if you look at a death witch and, you're looking at all the different things that they do. What is a part of a death witch's practice? What are the deities that they follow? What are they like? What are their personalities like? What are the devotional practices like? What are, the things associated with death witchcraft, whatever. And do those things resonate with you already? Are the things that you practice already? For instance, I found like a group of different types of witches, so to speak, that I kind of liked the idea of, and then kind of like went generally, like what do they do? One of the ones that I had thought of at first was Kitchen Witch. God. Was Kitchen Witch. And I was like, ooh, that sounds so cute, and like, I can bake bread and things like that. And I suck at cooking, and I hate it, and I don't like to cook. I prefer to go and eat Taco Bell. I don't give a shit. And so I realized that it was more of a fruitless endeavor. Doesn't mean that researching it was fruitless, but practicing that and starting there just because it sounded cute doesn't mean that it was useful to me as a person. And what I really started to do was look at things. After a while, I looked at the cute ones. I'm like, okay, there are some things that I do like, and then started to find the things that were more like totally different. Well, I've never even heard of that before. And then would look into that and say, okay, here's some things that I do. Oh, I already do this. Oh, this is what it is? I'm basically a witch already. I'm just doing it, and I just didn't even know. You know what I mean? So, like, for me, like, I'm a musician, and I've always been a musician. I've been playing for, like, 10 years or something like that. And when I, like, with my deity, which is Apollo, he's the god of music, and so part of my practice is playing music, which I already do. Or listen to music, which I'm doing at all times anyways. So finding things that are easy to do because you already love to do them, and then changing the intention. When I sing a song, I'm singing this one for Apollo, and then it helps me feel more connected, and it adds another layer when you add intentionality to something. So find things, like a general list of different witches and different practices and stuff like that. Find something that seems eerily similar to what you're doing already. Explore that. Explore how you can change the things that you do and make it magical. How can you make everyday things magical, And after that, I would say start going towards things that are new and exciting, that you've wanted to try but never gotten a chance to. Like, I've been getting into divination and stuff recently, so that's not something that I was doing before, but now that I'm more comfortable after almost transforming the things that I was already doing into a magical practice, then I felt more comfortable to start being able to bring in newer magical practices without it feeling so daunting. And like, if I didn't do it right the first time, then I wasn't doing magic properly and I wasn't being a good witch. You know what I mean? So let's think. What's the next thing? Okay. Look at my list here. So the next thing is tools. Do you need them? Should you use them? Is it important? It certainly is for some certain practices, but is it necessary for every witch? And does it matter what they look like? If your little knife thing isn't diamond encrusted, was it really witchcraft? You know? So when it comes to tools, I personally am really blessed and privileged. I happen to have a fiance who works really hard and gives me space to be a musician and be an artist and focus on my school, and still allows me to indulge in tools, which are most of it. I mean, honestly, my first videos, I didn't even know what to talk about, so all I did was haul videos, which I felt weird about after a while. I just felt like an asshole. But the reality is, it's just that those were things that were available to me. And if I was the richest person in the world, then I would have more things available to me. If I was super poor, I just have less things available to me. But it doesn't mean that I have nothing. You know what I mean? No matter where you are financially, you have something available to you. And there are so many alternatives. And you really, like, again, with the whole gatekeeping thing, there are some witches who will say, oh, if your tarot deck isn't, like, handcrafted by a local witch who's been practicing for at least 300 years, and it isn't made locally and hand-weaved by a fucking black cat, then it's not a real tarot deck. Don't listen to those people, okay? Like, for me, I guess I could show you 3 different types of tarot decks that I have, which show kind of like a pretty good scale of different types of tools that can be used. So this one is the first one that I got. This is a pretty generally like normal tarot deck, so to speak. This one was about $40. This is the Smith Waite tarot deck, which is like the Rider Waite, which is the more I guess like original one or whatever like that. So it's got more classic art style, and it was just something that I was able to afford at the time, and so I was using this. And this is something that like I see a lot of witches, this would be something that is acceptable, so to speak. But this can be pricey for people. But check this one out. See this one? It says Spencer's on there. This guy, $8. $8. And I know it literally says on the back of here, for novelty purposes only. This doesn't tell the future, guys. But who cares? Because we're witches. And we can just make anything magical. And this one's pretty cool, actually. It has different, you know, like, whatever lore and cool little mythical creatures and stuff like that. It was $8. Guys, like, we're living in a time where witchcraft in general is becoming more normalized. I mean, I've literally sat in a room of like 40, 50-year-old Christian ladies and conservative Christian ladies and explained to them that I'm a witch and I practice witchcraft, and they were like, oh, cool. Like, they got it, and they weren't like so shocked by it, because it's becoming something that they see all the time. They see tarot cards and Spencer's, there's incense and candles and different cool, like, metaphysical things in your Walmart and Target and whatever. And it's becoming so normalized that it's becoming easier to get cheaper alternatives. And there are also DIY methods of tools. You know, you can buy the pre-made fancy ones, you can buy cheaper, more accessible versions, or you can do something like I'm doing. So this is a regular playing card deck. I have a bunch of playing cards already. I don't even know where I got all these playing cards. It's just old cards. I mean, everyone's got a pack of cards in their house, right? If not, like, my grandma always had like a million of these. Boom. Hey, Grandma, can I borrow these forever? Sure, honey, I love you. Okay, great. Now I have a pack of cards to do divination with. There's something called cardomancy, which you can literally just use the face of the cards. For me, I'm making my own tarot deck. I unfortunately don't have any images to show you, but what I've been doing is painting, you know, you can't see the thing, but I've been painting them white so that I can draw my own image on there. Boom! A set of cards. And I know they're like kind of ugly on the outside or whatever. Who cares? That's my own tarot deck right here. Boom! You know what I mean? You can make your tools work for your situation. You know what I mean? So don't listen to people who are all like, oh, you need the best, baby girl, and like, look, I know that with witchcraft, especially when we're connecting to the earth, that it can feel like you gots to make sure that everything is absolutely perfect, and sometimes that can be really difficult, you know? Like, there are like a lot of herbs or different artists and things where it's like, oh, it has to be vegan, cruelty-free, and it has to, in order for that to even be manageable for the artist making that, they charge like $3 million for the thing, and for someone starting out, it's just not realistic. And I understand that. So making your own things out of what you got, or finding something at Spencer's that's super cheap, and I mean, like, this Spencer's thing didn't even come with a book, whatever, just go on Google, you know what I mean? It's not like the most quality product you're ever gonna get. It'll get you by. If you're really like, oh man, I really, really need a tarot deck, boom, you know what I mean? If you really, really feel like, oh, I need a theme, I really gotta have one, just go, like, find one. If not, like, oh, I'd like to use one, go use a kitchen knife, you know? And if you got the extra scratch, sure, spend it on the theme, who cares? You know, whatever really inspires you. When I first started out, I wasn't following a religion, I didn't have a deity, and you certainly don't have to get to that point. But what I did is I found things that inspired me, images, photos. I like to collect photos of people I don't know, and so I found things like that that really gave me a sense of magic. Like, if you want to decorate your room like you think Hogwarts would look like, do it. It doesn't matter if it's not, like, real magic, and it's not real whatever. If it inspires you, if it makes you feel magical and it makes you feel cool, like, sometimes doing it for the aesthetic works out in the end. You know, Oscar Wilde said that trying to achieve aesthetic and surrounding yourself with beautiful things makes you a more beautiful person, because you are constantly trying to achieve the same level of beauty that you surround yourself with. Oh my goodness. Like this little beautiful dog, huh? Him our little gremlin. So when you surround yourself with beautiful things that maybe have no meaning, and it inspires you, just do it. Just do it. It's gonna feel awesome. Which leads me to my next point, is having fun with it. You know what I mean? So for me, like I said, I'm rooted with my beliefs in more like science and math and things like that. However, you know, I can sit here and logic the hell out of everything that I believe in. I could sit here and go, oh, well, magic's not real because of this. I can go, oh, little fairies don't exist because of this. But I gotta hand it to, you know, it's like much funner to believe in those stuff. Much funner to believe that magic exists. It's much funner. And why are we gonna sit here and not allow ourselves to have fun with something that inspires us? You know? Like, if you're not having fun with your craft, you're not doing it right. You're just not. If you're sitting here, you're going, oh, I need to make sure that nobody finds out that I'm not a real witch because I don't have these tools, or I don't have these beliefs, and I don't know anything, and what if they give me a witch quiz and I don't pass it? Like, there's none of that. And if there is, you're just hanging around people who are legitimately party poopers. You know what I mean? Like, when I go on Tumblr, which I'm on Tumblr a lot, I get a lot of ideas and inspiration on there, and when I see someone being like, oh, I hate it when people like to enjoy witchcraft, and it's all about pain and suffering, and it's not that easy, sister, like, I just block them. I just don't want to see it. I don't want to introduce myself to people or allow people to be around who are, like, so determined to make your life hard and miserable. You know what I mean? And witchcraft doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be doing spells every day. It doesn't have to be, you know, freaking being the master of everything there is to know about witchcraft. Like, just take it as it comes. And like when it comes to something I've learned in my philosophy classes is there's not just one philosopher, and there's not one philosopher for one thing. You know, there's a billion philosophers arguing that God exists, and there's a billion philosophers arguing that he doesn't. There are so many opinions, and there are people who are saying the same things in different ways, and it's fine. But there's not just, oh, this guy says that God exists, and then this one guy says that he doesn't, and I guess we're just gonna live off of their opinions for forever, and just argue these two opinions. No. You know, there's a lot to work with, and the reason why there's so many different opinions and why all these different philosophers have been asking the same questions for centuries is because it's so difficult to come to a satisfying answer. And as witches, we are taking part in that philosophy. We are taking part in that journey for answers for something. And like it can be really overwhelming to sit here and go, oh my god, I have to be the master on all of this before I can even say anything. Like, no, there's too many things to do. But good news is that there are so many witches. It's surprising me how many witches I actually know. It's kind of crazy, and I see all the people online and all these different things, and seeing it come out in stores, like, you know, more witchy products and stuff like that. Like, there are a lot more of us than you realize. And the good news about that is, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to dedicate my life to figuring out, you know, how to make people feel comfortable starting their journey. And you know, you could help me with that, or if you don't care, then you can go, okay, I'm gonna go and figure out the intricacies of storm magic. You know, like whatever you want to do, figuring out something and not having to worry that you haven't answered all the other questions, because I guarantee you there's somebody else out there figuring it out. There's somebody else out there going like, oh my gosh, this thing, I can't get off my brain, I just need to talk about it forever. And you can listen to them sometimes. You don't have to figure that part out all the time. You don't have to be the master of everything magic ever, because there are so many people who are we're just gonna tag team this bitch. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna tag team it, because the world and her questions is too much for one person, for one witch, for one magic practitioner, for one philosopher to figure out on their own. So, you know, have fun with it. Have fun with it. Because you could just torture yourself like all the greatest philosophers, just go fucking crazy with the same question over and over and over again. If something's really bugging you, if you can't get it, if like you get a tarot deck in your hands and you don't feel a fucking thing, put it down. Who cares? Move on to the next thing. There's no book, nothing at all that says that you need to have an immense, beautiful, magical feeling and experience with everything that happens in witchcraft. There's nothing that says that, you know, like, if I mean, you get into this and you realize that, oh, none of this resonates with me at all, like the idea of a witch sounded cool, but literally everything that I've studied, I don't give a shit about. Okay, well, at least you tried, you know? And that's the important thing, is that we tried. And you just go with what your heart feels and what feels right. And you just let people breathe and let people do the same for themselves. And, like, I guarantee that it's gonna be fine. Really. Really, it's gonna be fine. Like, you're gonna... you will find that eventually when you start to just follow your heart and just have fun and put childlike wonder into what you're doing and things like that, and just let go and be free, that all of these anxieties about being someone who's new to witchcraft tend to melt away. They really do. They tend to melt away. And what I want this channel to be is a jumping off point for you to be able to make your own truth and your own wisdom, because I really don't think that it makes sense to just live by somebody else's, and that includes other witches. Like, it makes perfect sense to just, like, the way you find your power is for it to come from you. you know? And that's really the main thing here, is listen to yourself and take it as, you know, using something kinesthetically and tangible, like magic, and I'm lighting this candle and it's magic, and, you know, I'm using this candle for self-love, and when I light this candle, then I'm gonna start loving myself. Like, if that's something that helps you actually start to love yourself, if that's something that helps you, like, actually start to learn about yourself and learn about the people around you and the world that you live in, like, then you're doing it right. You're doing it right. So, really, at the end of this, just let go. You know, let go, have fun, don't worry about it too much. And you know, if you're really struggling, again, I encourage you to talk to me about it. You know, DM me on Instagram or Tumblr or whatever the hell. I'll have all of those in the description. And, like, come and talk to me about it. Let's talk. I love talking. I could talk for hours. That's why all my videos are like 40 minutes long. Like, feel free to come and talk to me. And, you know, let's kind of, you know, dish out all the hot goss on magic and how it's going for us. And that's what I hope this channel can sort of become for you. Sort of a place where you can feel validated and feel comfortable in exploring and taking space and taking authority over your own wisdom, because you have it. So, let's see. I always end off with a question. What is the question? I guess my question would be, there are so many questions I can ask that are related to this. My question would be, how are you planning on, if you're very new to witchcraft, how are you planning on beginning? How are you planning on, you know, documenting the beginning of your craft? And if you're not new to witchcraft, if you're here just because, how are you thinking that you can maybe do something different? How can you document something differently? How can you shake up the way that you do your craft and challenge your beliefs that you already have? Alrighty, so thank you for sitting here and listening and dealing with all of my nonsense that I always deal with. Y'all are the best. Word up. I'm gonna go attend to these dogs now and eat some more Taco Bell. I'll see y'all on the flip side.